Hello dear students, welcome to RX Prodigy. We are going to start new video lecture series on the topic cellular level of organization, which is the second part of first unit of human anatomy and physiology 1 of first year B Pharm syllabus. Without wasting time, let's start our new session. In this video, we will see some important facts of human cell. So let's start. The structure and function of cell and cell organelles. You can see different organelles are present inside the cell. The nuclear envelope, nucleus, plasma membrane is surrounded by the cell. Then plasma membrane surrounds the cell. Then endoplasmic reticulum, ribosome, Golgi apparatus. Then peroxisomes are present. Microvilli, microfilaments are present. Microtubule, cytosol, lysosome, mitochondria are present. Then smooth endoplasmic reticulum, nucleolus, and chromatin are present inside the human cell. Now these are the references used for the preparation of this presentation. First is the Principle of Anatomy and Physiology by G. Tortora, then Biochemistry book by U. Satyanarayanan, and Anatomy and Physiology Ross and Wilson. So the introduction of cell. The cell is discovered by Robert Hooke in 1665 and the cell theory was given by M.J. Sheldon and Theodore Schwann in 1839. The cell theory describes that every living organism composed of one or more cells, and cell is the basic unit of life. The cell obtained from pre-existing cell. Let us see some facts about human cell. About 100 trillion cells are present in a human body. That means about 1000 times the number of stars in our galaxy. The normal size of cell is 1 to 100 micrometers. These are some cells present in the human body. First is the sperm cell, which is the smallest cell in the human body, and the size of sperm cell is 5 microns. Then ovum. The ovum is the largest cell in the human body and size is 120 microns. And the neuron is the longest cell in the body and the length of neuron is about 1 meter. So the parts of cell are divided into three sections. First is the plasma membrane, second cytoplasm. Now the cytoplasm contains the cellular content between the plasma membrane and the nucleus, and the third part of the cell is nucleus. Let's start the plasma membrane. So you can see in diagram the structure of plasma membrane. Plasma membrane is the lipid bilayer which contains various proteins embedded in it. Now the model used to describe the structure of plasma membrane is known as fluid mosaic model. The plasma membrane is a flexible yet sturdy barrier that surrounds and contains the cytoplasm of a cell and is described by using a structural model called as fluid mosaic model. Now, according to the fluid mosaic model, the plasma membrane resembles an ever-moving sea of fluid lipids. Why it is so? Because plasma membrane is made up of lipid bilayers and lipid bilayers are fluid fatty in nature, so they may be resembles as moving sea of fluid lipids. Then it contains a mosaic of many different proteins. In the diagram you can see different proteins, glycoproteins, glycolipids, then integral proteins, peripheral proteins, channel proteins are present in the plasma membrane, so they form a mosaic by different proteins. Then a lipid bilayer in which protein molecules are embedded. We have seen molecular structure of proteins. Peripheral proteins and integral proteins are embedded in the plasma membrane. So they are present, they are embedded in the plasma membrane, which is the lipid bilayer. Now, the lipid bilayer is composed of two back-to-back layers. Up to three types of lipid molecules are present in a single lipid bilayer. Okay, so first is the phospholipid, second cholesterol, and third is glycolipid. Okay, this structure is the phospholipid bilayer. You can see two layers of lipid molecules are present in the plasma membrane, the extracellular layer and the intracellular layer. If we consider one molecule of lipid, okay, then it contains, suppose this is the structure of lipid, then the upper ball shaped structure is head, which is the hydrophilic head. Hydrophilic head, and the tail is lipophilic in nature. Now, how will you remember that head is hydrophilic and tail is lipophilic? What is the meaning of philic? So hydrophilic means philic philic means loving. So hydrophilics, that philic, that means water loving, and hydrophobic means water hating. Hydrophobic, it also means that lipid loving. So it is also called as lipophilic. Okay. So the tail is lipophilic in nature, and head is hydrophilic in nature. Okay, so you can remember tail, L by L, lipophilic tail and hydrophilic head. Okay, so this is the structure of plasma membrane. It contains different types of protein which are embedded in the plasma membrane. You can see in the structure peripheral proteins are present, then integral protein are present. Integral proteins are the transmembrane protein which are embedded inside the plasma membrane, and peripheral protein are present at the periphery, at the surface of the plasma membrane, either intracellular or extracellular. Then cholesterol molecules are bound with the hydrophilic head. Okay, fatty acid tails are present inside the lipid bilayer which form a hydrophobic region. Then glycolipids. Carbohydrates are always conjugated with either lipids or proteins. So they are called as, if they are the carbohydrates are conjugated with lipids, then they are called as glycolipid. If carbohydrates are conjugated with protein, then they are called as glycoprotein. Okay, so the thickness of this plasma membrane is about 75 to 100 angstrom in thickness. Then this plasma membrane can only be observed under electron microscope. Then chemical composition of plasma membrane. The plasma membrane contains lipids, proteins and carbohydrates. First is the lipid. There are four types of lipids present in the plasma membrane. In that, first is the phospholipid, which is the most abundant lipid present in the bilayer. Then sphingolipid, glycolipid and sterols. Here cholesterol is most abundantly present in the plasma membrane. So all these lipids are amphipathic in nature, as they contains hydrophilic head and lipophilic tail. Both the characters are present in single molecule of the lipid, so they are called as the amphipathic. Amphipathic means hydrophilic and lipophilic. Okay, so the cholesterol present in the mammalian cell, the lipid contains four types of lipid. Plasma membrane contains four types of lipids. In that, sterols, are nothing but the cholesterol, and the cholesterol is present in only mammalian cell, but it is absent in prokaryotic cell. You can see different structures of lipids. First is the phospholipid, then triglyceride having three tails, then cholesterol. You can see the structure is bound to the hydrophilic head. Then next, proteins. So there are two types of protein present in the plasma membrane. First, peripheral protein, and second, integral protein. Peripheral protein, that means the protein which are present at the surface of the plasma membrane. Either they are present in the internal section of the cell, or they may be present at the external section. You can see in the diagram the peripheral protein are present on the surface of the plasma membrane, and integral protein are also known as the transmembrane protein, and they are embedded inside the plasma membrane. You can see the integral proteins are embedded in the plasma membrane. The plasma membrane contains about 50% of protein, and some of them act as receptors or enzymes. The next component of plasma membrane is carbohydrates. Carbohydrate makes up 5 to 10% of the membrane's mass, and it is present only on exterior surface of the plasma membrane. Carbohydrates are always conjugated with either protein or lipid. When they are conjugated with protein, then they are called as glycoprotein. When carbohydrates are conjugated with lipids, then they are called as glycolipids. You can see glycoproteins conjugated with protein. Then functions of plasma membrane. First function of plasma membrane is to keep cell intact. It protects the cell, so it by providing the protective barrier. Then it regulates transport in and out of cell by its selective permeability. Then plasma membrane allows cell recognition, provide a binding site for enzymes, then interlocking surfaces binds cells together, that is nothing but the junctions, contains cytoplasm which is the fluid in the cell. Now these are some molecules that can be passed or cannot be passed through the plasma membrane. As we know, plasma membrane have selective permeability, so some molecules can pass through the plasma membrane, some cannot pass, so they require proteins or enzymes or any carrier to pass through the plasma membrane. You can see here small hydrophobic molecules like O2, CO2 and N2 can pass through the plasma membrane easily, so they are membrane permeable. Then small uncharged polar molecules like H2O, urea, glycerol cannot pass easily. Mostly they are permeable, but some pass by diffusion process. Diffusion means what? Transport of molecules from higher concentration to lower concentration towards concentration gradient. So the molecules will be transferred from extracellular part to the intracellular part towards the concentration gradient. These are the small and uncharged polar molecules. Then next are large uncharged polar molecule like glucose, sucrose. These are mostly impermeable, so they cannot pass through the cell membrane, and for the transportation of glucose and sucrose, some transport proteins are there through which the glucose and sucrose can enter inside the cell. For glucose, we know GLUT channels are present, GLUT. GLUT channels are present, and from this GLUT channel, the glucose can transfer from extracellular to intracellular portion. Then ions like Na plus, K plus, Cl minus, Ca2 plus are completely impermeable. That means they require again transport protein, like channels are present, sodium, potassium, ATPase, calcium pump, then potassium pump are present to transfer the ions. So these are some molecules that have O2, CO2 and N2 can pass easily through the plasma membrane, and other requires transport protein. Here we have completed the plasma section, plasma membrane section. In the next video we are going to start the cytoplasm and other organelles. Thank you for watching.